Welcome to Grim Rolls. Cyberpunk, Edgerunners, maybe your favorite show ever, anime, whatever. I personally really like it, and I also enjoy the hobby of miniature war painting. And recently I found out from our friends over at Monster Fight Clubs there actually is a pretty storied miniature fight game, miniature war game. Obviously, Cyberpunk started as a tabletop RPG, which I have never played, nor have I ever played this game, but I do enjoy the video game a lot, and I also enjoy miniatures. So, when I saw that there was a pre-order for the Cyberpunk Edgerunners squad in Cyberpunk Red Zone, I think. I'm not really sure if this is a brand new game or if it's like a spin-off of Red Zone, because they call it now Cyberpunk Edgerunners. You can buy a Cyberpunk Edgerunners starter kit, which I would recommend probably not buying if the rules are the same, because there's these acrylic standees, and I understand if you want to get right into playing the game, but also if you're producing miniatures, I think you'd rather just paint up some miniatures as a display piece. So I have them here. They're about $70 for 9 minis. I think that might be a little pricey, and they come completely pre-assembled, unless you're like me and you dropped Lucy and her head just popped off, and I had to kind of jankily super glue it back on. But I have all 9 of them. I think today we're going to start with Rebecca, everyone's favorite. Hopefully you can see that. If not, I'll get some B footage. So let's go ahead and get these guys primed up, and we'll come back with a little how I like to paint tutorial. Starting out our wonderful painting of Rebecca, we're using Vampiric Mist from Reaper, Forcefield Blue, and Warlock Hex from Army Painters Game Master line. When I paint my minis, I usually like to start from the bottom up. I don't know why. I just like to get that base done. Usually it's 1 or 2 colors. And usually I start with the boots. For whatever reason, this time I really wanted to get into that really nice purpley lilac, bluish purple skin tone that Rebecca has. And usually I struggle really hard when it comes to skin tones. But so I like to work with characters like this that have non-traditional skin tones, like a purple or a green or something like that. I just kind of get out of my own head. So if you're trying to get better at that, I'd recommend just starting with some odd colors. Don't try to match skin tones perfectly. It's really helped me build up some confidence with miniature painting. Another thing when it comes to painted animated characters, I'm only going up a value or 2 with highlights. You can see here I'm taking a pretty dry brush, and I added just a little bit of extra white in there. And I'm just kind of brushing it over the highlighted areas or where the light would really catch. She's facing towards something, getting ready to shoot, and I wanted to highlight that and accentuate that. And animated characters really don't have a lot of contrast in that sense, so they're really fun to paint up. Next up, we're going to tackle her hair, and we're using Pro Acryl's Rogue Hobbies signature line Bright Green with just a little Vampiric Mist to get this awesome mint color. Vampiric Mix is an awesome mix-in for white. I hate working with whites. All my white paints have been chalky, and I found this one, and it's just super nice to mix in. I haven't really experimented with it when it comes to just pure white, putting it on the canvas, on the miniature, but on its own as a mix-in, awesome paint. So again, you can see I'm just stepping up just like 1 or 2 values. I'm gonna do it again where I get kind of a pretty dry brush, and I'm just catching kind of the details or where the light would really, really catch her. Another thing about painting, if you're trying to get into miniature painting characters like this from shows or animation, or 3D printing something from a show, you're really just trying to color match. Animation doesn't have a ton of contrast that you're trying to match. We're really just trying to match colors, and that'll sell the effect enough to make a character recognizable. So you can see I just jumped up 1 value there, and it looks pretty great. Next up, we're tackling her 2-tone robotic hands, gloves, and we're using, once again, from Rogue Hobbies. They're really coming in handy on these animated, bright, vivid colors. The Rogue Hobbies signature series from Pro Acryl. We're using the dark turquoise and the orange red for her orange glove. Next, we're going to highlight that glove, and I'm using Ogre Skin from the same starter set, that Vampiric Mist is from Reaper paints, and you want to highlight up to yellow when it comes to red. If you highlight with just pure white, it's going to become pinky, and we don't want pink on this particular character. We want to capture what red would look like as it weathers, especially a bright, vivid red. It's not going to weather pink. It's going to weather into orange and more rusty kind of yellow colors. So I'm making kind of a makeshift orange with already a pretty orangey red. And just once again taking a really dry brush and just capturing. There's a lot of fun little details kind of getting in between her knuckles and where it would naturally reside. So from here, I added just a little more yellow and a little more white. You can kind of see we're getting close to that pink tone, but I pulled it back just a little bit. Now we're on to our other glove, and you can see I really struggle, and maybe someone can help me in the comments, with the pooling of these Monument Pro acryls. They don't want to stick. And I don't really thin these out too much on my wet palette. They just like to pool, and you can see I'm really struggling to try and get it there. So that was a little frustrating, so I'll take any help I can get there. Also, I see the brush, okay? I know it is incredibly weathered. It's hooking horribly. I genuinely just didn't notice when I was painting this. I don't know if it was the angle, I was holding it, or what was going on. I do not want to hear it in the comments. I have new brushes. I'm going to clean up this brush, but this thing has been a workhorse for me, so I have no complaints. So there we go. After just highlighting one or two values, you can see we don't want to go crazy, get caught in the details. Next up, once again, from Rogues, Pro Signature Ultramarine Blue. And I love to work with starter kits. It's a great way for me to collect paints and try a variety of paints. Army Painter's Halo Flashpoint. Black and gray. We're going to tackle her jacket here. And normally with a jacket like this, I think most people's first thought would be to jump, let's make this thing black. And really her jacket is actually a dark, almost blue purpley color. So you can see here, I see the brush, I know. You can see here, I made it kind of this implied black that's getting hit by a lot of light. This is a way more interesting color, and you still can see some of those details. And if I ever want to go back down in value, I have the flexibility of doing that. If I was to start with just pure black, I wouldn't have much flexibility to go down in contrast with anything. So I try to work in pretty bright colors for when I go up. Next up here, we have just kind of catching the highlights where the folds and wrinkles are. It's a pretty dramatic jump, but I'm trying to capture, like I said, the animated style. And when they're replicating these characters and putting them through all these paces in animation, they're not going to get caught up with a ton of shading. It's just kind of, here's some implied shading happening, and that's what I'm trying to capture here, almost a cell shading or something. That might not be the best example, but I'm trying to get pretty dramatic jumps here just to capture that animated style we have here. Oh, lost a little focus. One thing I would like to say, I do a lot of cleanup off camera, and I probably still will go back and clean up. I'm new to YouTube, new to all this. Well, not new to YouTube, but new to filming my miniature painting. So I'm working on getting a better system set up. So I'm working around the camera, trying to keep everything in focus. Definitely not my best paint job. I'm not an expert by any means. I've only been painting for about 6 months. So I appreciate everyone who's watching, tuning in, and possibly even helping me in the comments. I appreciate all of that. So from here, I'm just going back over with another slight jump in value. I'm just trying to capture those parts I already hit. I don't want to add any new highlights sections. I want to just brighten up the existing highlights I have. And I take a very dry brush again. I like to do a lot of dry brushing. I'll build up some texture. And I'm just softly going over and just letting a little paint jump off the brush onto these details. You can see I'm a little messy on the legs there. I'm gonna have to go back and clean that up, which is frustrating. Next up, we're gonna go with Bismuth Yellow. Once again, the Rogue Hobbies paint set coming in handy. If we look at Rebecca and a lot of the Edgerunner stuff, they have this neon-y, glowing green. A lot of Cyberpunk stuff has that. So I went back over and on all the seams and edges of her jacket have this. One thing to note, if you do decide to paint with this and follow this kind of guide generally, I highlighted the wrong thing on her jacket on the arm there. I highlighted the cuff. You can see here, I highlighted the right thing here. I don't know if I just didn't catch the cuff. You can see I actually painted that red. from here, I'm using actually this as more of a glaze. This is a this is a very wet, thinned out green. I just want it to kind of catch on the light parts, almost making it look like it's glowing. And if you really thin out and add a lot of water to your paint, when it hits those lighter areas, it's going to look like it's glowing against it. We don't want to really cover up the darker purple parts of the jacket. We want to just capture those light parts. You can see there, even on the cuff, or I'm sorry, on the top part of her collar, it was super wet coming off the brush. So treating this as a glaze, and I'm just kind of going back over with almost pure bismuth yellow. I went with the green, and now I just want to capture even more yellow, but I'm still trying to keep the green on the edges. So I want the middle to look yellow and the edges to look that green. Next up is her gun, her beefy gun that matches her hair color. I did not realize this when I was painting. I would have done that all then. Just kind of a quick, dirty base coat. That color pops off the brush really well. She also has this hot pink accent on her gun, and I just freehanded it. Just kind of a straight line. You can make fun of my brush all you want. Perfect for something like this. Absolutely stunning. Perfect. Jumps off the brush, and it made a fairly straight line on there. One coat. I mean, look at that coverage. These Pro Acrylic paints, if I could figure out how to use them more consistently, great. Another dark pink accent on her thigh. She has like a tattoo, and it's actually raised. So if you get these models, you don't have to worry about freehanding this one. You can see I'm just trying to capture the raised part of it and avoiding getting any paint on anything that's not raised. Not that it would be a huge deal, but I want that to look like a clean line. Same thing on her chest here. This is just another freehand. I just kind of made a little triangle on her chest just to imply that in there. These minis are so tiny that we're not going to be able to get all the detail we want. And you'll see when I try to do that how it might not look great. Went back with some Warlock Hex to get her purples, or her lips that purple color. And here's when I noticed how frayed my brush is. I was struggling here. I could not. I was like, oh my God, I just need to dot these eyes. I made it work. I got it really wet, so it went in the recesses of her eyes. She has these psycho, crazy eyes at this point. And then I went back in with that bismuth yellow-green combo. And this was a little drier, not as wet, and I just kind of tapped it on her. Actually, you can see her irises. I'm not going to get caught up in the details of it. I'm never going to be able to do that at this point in my painting career. So I just kind of tapped it on there, and I think it sells the effect pretty well. She also has these black cybernetic lines on her cheeks. I tried. With this brush, it wasn't happening. I just got some new brushes, and I also just need to clean up this brush. So, but I tried my best. You know, we're working with limited supplies here, and also I just wanted to record this video, get it done. Next up is her boots. For some reason, I realized I forgot to do her boots, and luckily, they are the same color as her jacket. So I just made it that color, really wet, almost like a contrasty paint, and then captured the details once again. I put white and then glazed on her laces, and then same thing here. I'm not really worried about being perfect with it. I just kind of want to capture the general spot of it. See, I'm just brushing that paintbrush right over those details, and they are raised, so it's helpful in trying to capture that. And then I took back in once again with some pure bismuth, very wet, almost like a glaze. I'm just plopping that kind of in the middle and just barely brushing my brush across it. Because once again, I want the middle of those to be yellow and the outer to be that green. This is the part I probably regret, and I would just recommend not doing it at this point. I think she looked fine here. It just needed some cleanup. I decided to go in with some Nuln oil. I know, the cheat code of the world. Although, only Citadel paint I use this whole thing, which is actually where I do enjoy the Citadel paint lines, but these Reaper paints and these Pro Acrylic paints have been treating me nice lately. The only part I really enjoy with the Nuln oil are the gloves. It really got into those recesses well. You can see here her face, her hair specifically, not a huge fan of it. And last but not least, she has a little headband in her hair that I missed. So I just went back in with that kind of grayish black. And now it's time for the reveal.
I couldn't wait for you to come and clear the cupboards, but now you're gone and leaving nothing but a sign. Another evening I'll be sitting reading in between your lines, because I miss you all the time. So get away, another way to feel what you did all yourself to know, and let yourself go. You know you did lose yourself.
And there you go, one Rebecca from Cyberpunk Edgerunners. I will say, definitely a lot harder recording and trying to keep everything in focus and focus on more than just painting, so probably not my best work. And also the basing, I'm thinking about buying some of those Necromunda Cyberpunk bases, or trying even to make my own, but the basing will happen in another video, sorry. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and which Cyberpunk character. There's 8 more to do. I'll probably combine the 2 Davids into one video, because there is like a young David and an old David. But let me know below which one you guys want me to paint up next, and make sure you subscribe, like, all that stupid baloney, and I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Grim Roll.